Welcome to the North American Ag Spotlight. I'm Chrissy Wozniak. My guest today is from Dallas, Texas. He grew up on his family farm in Idaho and was inspired by the autonomous driving software on his father's tractors. And that triggered an interest in robotics and AI. Today, he's the founder and CEO of Seekar Technologies, a tech startup that builds artificial intelligence products for a variety of industries, including agriculture. So I'd like to welcome Kordel France. Welcome, Kordel, and thank you so much for being here.
Chrissy, thank you for allowing me to be here, and thank you to your listeners.
So can you tell me first about your background and your family farm?
Sure, absolutely. So I grew up on a farm in Idaho, as you just alluded to. We primarily grow wheat and potatoes. And my father brought home some autonomous driving software. Well, he integrated that into most of our tractors when I was a child, which kind of, as you spoke about, drove my interest in autonomy and robotics and artificial intelligence. And it's out of everything in my life, the farm's taught me more than I could ever learn in school or anywhere else about several different things. But I decided to kind of give back in my own way, and we've kind of we've developed a lot of our artificial intelligence capabilities for agriculture to try to kind of modernize a lot of the approaches to agriculture right now. And so I work collaboratively with my father a lot and a lot of the people from our farm to kind of bring forth those opportunities and those technologies. And I'm always grateful for the opportunity to go back and test some stuff and to work with them.
That's so cool. So can you tell me how Seekar Technologies was born?
Sure. So I actually I started off my career in actually the Department of Defense. So I started working on autonomous systems in the Department of Defense, and my colleague and I, when we first founded it, or before we founded it, we were working on some computer vision software. So software that basically identifies patterns through cameras and can detect different things. And we saw that there was quite a bit of opportunity within several different industries that were underutilizing artificial intelligence to its potential. Right now, they weren't quite utilizing it to its potential. And after doing some more coding and some more prototyping on our software, improving it in various ways, we decided to leave those jobs and start Seekar. And it's been it's been fantastic ever since. Haven't looked back. Had a lot of success in a few different industries, mostly in pattern recognition in cameras and vision. And now we're focusing heavily, almost primarily on agriculture right now, to try to kind of boost that industry a little bit and move things forward in that regard.
That's amazing. And so in what ways do you serve the ag industry? So more specifically.
Sure. So right now we have some products that are introducing AI into, well, not introducing, but are integrating artificial intelligence more heavily into agriculture. And it's interesting because agriculture's had self-steering, right, or self-driving quotes since the late 90s, and we're just now seeing it in a consumer industry coming online where you can actually purchase it in your cars. Now, granted, self-driving on a highway is a little bit more complex than self-driving in a field, but nonetheless, agriculture kind of pioneered that in some regard. And so it's interesting to just see how that's kind of come full circle. But we particularly have noticed that like defense and some aspects of medicine, that agriculture wasn't taking advantage of artificial intelligence to its full degree. And there's a lot of opportunities to help farmers cut costs. And in a variety of ways, whether that's through growing crops or predictive maintenance on equipment, or just better data analytics. That's where we're trying to focus right now. And so a couple of the products we are building right now are particularly on gaining more situational awareness and efficiency about crops, and predictive disease, or being more predictive towards what diseases a crop is succumbed to or it's vulnerable to for a particular season. But also being able to provide predictive maintenance on equipment for tractors. So making sure that, if something, I mean, I've been a part of, and my colleague's been a part of several instances where if we would have caught something in the field, 10 minutes earlier, we could have saved 2 days worth of downtime or tearing an engine apart or something like that. And so being able to kind of try to predict these really heavy failures through a suite of sensors that we developed try to help farmers kind of have better idea of the health of their equipment and try to save them some downtime, is something we're chasing right now to try to kind of, just increase productivity a lot more.
Right. Yeah, that's incredible. And precision eggs' impact on production has been so mind blowing. The choices and options that producers have to weigh when they're just as mind boggling. So, what should producers be weighing back and forth when they're making these purchasing decisions?
There's there's a little bit of apprehension to kind of utilize some of these newer technologies, right? So you kind of have to take
Mhm.
a leap of faith, and um, integrating data is something new for, well, somewhat new to a lot of agronomists in some way or some form of another. It's really, farms don't have a lot of farms don't have their own servers, right? Or they don't have to rely on a lot of heavy data cloud infrastructure or anything. And not necessarily saying you need that, but um, considering how much power can be gathered from that data by having sensors at a more integrated level within your equipment, is something I think that the advantages of what you can gain from that is something I think that farmers should consider, because it's kind of hard because it's out of your workflow, right? It's not really something that checking data and analytics and all this kind of things, and getting responses from AI models that are saying, hey, look at this. This is there's we detected some signs that your equipment may malfunction in the near future. That's not something that I don't think agronomists and farmers are necessarily used to, at least to the level we're going to. But what we're trying to do to try to really help them, kind of to really help them be open to that, rather, is really explain to them the potential and explain to them how much money you can save, how it can benefit your crop, how it can increase your yield, so that they feel comfortable purchasing and they feel comfortable kind of integrating autonomy more into their workflow.
That's cool. And how does AI help cut the cost of field visits, for example?
So I'll briefly describe one of the products that we build
Yeah.
that we're building that to kind of help explain this. But we have a suite of sensors that you adhere to a piece of equipment, and it acts kind of like a nervous system for the equipment as it's traveling through the field. So they're called accelerometers, and they basically sense forces. And there's a couple other sensors on there, but you basically put one at each every couple feet with on an implement. So if you have a 36-foot wide implement or anything really any width whatsoever, but and you put these sensors, every couple feet throughout there, they're constantly measuring forces going through the field. And so if you're detecting all of these stresses as the equipment is performing, you can basically say, okay, well, I see that the left wing of this potato marker has received, quite a few stresses because it's hit quite a few rocks. You're going through very, very, a field with a lot of lava rock, or you're going through just very tough dirt. That one part of the implement over the other is likely, going to have weaker welds, or it's going to fail before the others. So this is kind of the information we're trying to receive, is by having this kind of nervous system on some of these implements that allow them to see, they've experienced some pretty high forces. They've been worn down quite a bit. If you have to give attention, or you next time you bring a service pickup out to the field, I would give attention to these spots over the others, because these have a higher probability of breaking before other parts. Now extrapolating that out to a little bit of a heavier degree, you can get a lot of situational awareness about your entire implement all in itself, right? So if this nervous system, if you will, is communicating all this data back to the cab, right, and making it and communicating it in such a way that it's really easy for the cab driver, the farmer, to actually, or the operator to interpret, and he's not overwhelmed by data. He can have all this data in real time to make really critical decisions or really quick decisions, and determine if he needs to call a service pickup out now, or if he's can get away with another fuel tank or another tank of fuel before he's got to call one out, or whatever it is, so that that before it gets to the point where something really breaks down badly and you're down for a few days, right, where you have to actually put an engine back together or whatever. That's kind of where our product particularly is hoping to come in, and increase productivity and kind of augment a farmer's capability in that regard.
Right. And you have the kind of the same for crops as well, right? On demand analysis?
Yes. So we've been working on some software that's actually works through a mobile app so that a farmer can get more information about crops through artificial intelligence recognizing what's wrong with the plant, right? What's wrong with any crop really. But we have a particular focus right now on potatoes and wheat, and I'm trying to identify different diseases within those. So this app basically it functions through the camera, right? And you can take a picture, and it'll be able to identify different symptoms within the crop itself to say, hey, there are signs of late blight here, or there are signs of rust within the grain, right?
Mhm.
And being able to have that at a handheld is one thing, but being able to kind of communicate that through an aerial drone where you get aerial photography or a camera on a irrigation pivot, right? That's constantly getting all this data. Um, you can kind of turn the field and all these little instruments into this giant situational awareness hub so that the farmer can determine he can better allocate or she can better allocate their resources. So maybe we don't need to add certain fertilizers or chemicals to this field because it's not as vulnerable as this other field for this, this fall or this spring. And maybe it is more vulnerable to these ones. So we should have a crop duster come in and spray for these 3 different diseases. Just going back to the precision ag you mentioned, being able to be more precise about how resources are allocated to try to save a little bit more money and ensure that crops are getting protected in the correct manner is kind of where we're going with this computer vision, this camera software.
Yeah. And in the last decade, ag tech has really exploded in capability and affordability. So I want to know what's amazed you most about being in this field.
What's amazed me most is that I wish there was more investment, particularly in regards to artificial intelligence. There's a lot of focus within like self-driving cars, smart home assistants, and to see agriculture kind of leading the industry with self-driving in the beginning, and now it seems like there's more focus and investment in other industries. That was kind of shocking to me. I think it's starting to catch back up because people are realizing how much opportunity there is with agriculture and how much efficiency can be gained with these computerized solutions. I am glad to see that. Another thing is how amenable most farmers are to being able to integrate new technology into their workflow, into their systems. Once we've encountered a couple people where they were a little reluctant to utilize some of these higher technological solutions just because it's not the way things have been done. But once you elaborate and explain the potential and how what it can do and how it can save you money and where it can actually catch up these shortfalls and when their current operation, they're very amenable to it, and they welcome it, and it's that was good to see because we've had issues in other industries where there's a fear of AI replacing people, right, and replacing jobs. And it doesn't seem that way, at least with our agricultural customers. It doesn't seem that it's been that way so far. It seems that they've seen it as it augmenting their capabilities, increasing their productivity rather than replacing capabilities, which is entirely our mission, right? Is to just augment the efficiency of the farmer and increase their output and their capability.
That's it. And increase that profit, right? Which is
exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. And so where do you see this going? What crazy things do you think are around the corner?
I think there's going to be a lot more investment in agriculture. I was reading a few days ago, well, I think it was a few weeks ago, actually, John Deere acquired a robotics company that actually retrofits tractors to, I think it was Bear Flag Robotics. They retrofit tractors to drive autonomously. So they retrofit them with sensors, LiDAR, radar, all these different things, computer or cameras, so that they can actually navigate autonomously through the field without a cab or without a driver in the cab. And we've kind of seen efforts in that before, but these guys bring it to a whole new level in which it's pretty robust. So to see Deere moving in that direction is really cool because it shows that they're a significant player in the game, obviously, and if they're willing to commit those resources, that just shows where the industry's going. To jump super far into the future for a moment, there's a lot of focus in space, right, and trying to kind of get to Mars, the whole SpaceX mission. I think farmers are going to be a very hot commodity once that, once we actually get there, because we're going to have to be able to figure out how to grow our own food, right, on Mars. And so agronomists and agriscientists and farmers are going to, those experts in the field are going to be heavily utilized, because they're the ones that know how to get, a high yield out of minimal resources in regards to agriculture. And so, hopefully our products and our technology will be able to, benefit in that regard. But it's a very optimistic time, I think, for agriculture, because there's a lot of autonomy and a lot of artificial intelligence that's being adopted into different aspects of the industry, which just is really exciting, because we're going to really see some really cool things happening.
Amazing. And you've actually done some pretty incredible things through the company during the pandemic. Can you tell me about that?
Yes, absolutely. So the pandemic actually posed some significant opportunities for Seekar, in which we were able to use our artificial intelligence software for a variety of medical purposes. So um, it, most of the people we talked with in medicine before the pandemic were reluctant to use artificial intelligence, because they had that fear of replacing their capabilities, right? And they didn't, pop culture's kind of influence the way we see artificial intelligence, and that it's Terminator, right? And it's going to just basically have this catastrophic outcome. But we were able to actually show that that's not the case, right? We used our pattern detection, our pattern recognition software